You afraid of moons? Don't watch this.
Don't get mooned.
Don't get mooned. Don't get mooned. You may be mooned if you watch this movie.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Watch this. Human behavior.
Are you voguing there?
That was Vogue. Okay, well, for the people who will see us on the YouTubes, if you're just listening to us, what I did. Do you remember Usher? He did the Tiny Desk concert, and then there was a whole bunch of just videos of him singing confessions, and like before he sings the song, he says,
Really?
"Watch this," and he just does this. So if you know, you know.
No, I did not know that he did that. That's really funny.
But you know the song Confessions, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And he, like, right before he sings, he's like, "Watch
Is there
this."
a part 1 and part 2?
There is a part 1 and a part 2.
Oh, do I remember?
That's for the true millennials out there who know that album. But if you know, again, if you know, you know what I did. Otherwise, go on our YouTubes and watch it. Okay, so very excited to dive into our conversation today because we are talking about the 2009 horror film, The House of the Devil. So, one more time. Yep, that's great. Love it. Keep it. That needs to be just a sound clip that we have from now on. That if anything's spooky spooks, it's just that sound.
It's
Great.
just some spooky song. It's just a spooky little song.
I love it. I mean, 'tis the season. September 1st. Can we
Oh,
get a
yeah.
hand clap for
Happy
that?
spooky season to us all. Although
To us
the real folks have been celebrating spooky season all year round, but you know, what do I know?
Exactly. It's like the real ones all year round. The ones who kind of dabble in it start in August. And then people who really just have it on the day, it's just on
Honestly,
the day.
after
you know?
July 4th, that's when you should start. If you're
Oh, actually, yes. I agree with that. Fantastic. So, The House of the Devil is written, directed, and edited by one Ty West. And it stars Jocelyn Donahue, Tom Noonan, Mary Woronov, Greta Gerwig. What are you doing? Hello, Barbie. AJ Bowen, and Dee Wallace.
Come on, Barney, let's go, Barney.
Yeah. I saw her name pop up and I said, "What are you doing here, girl? What's happening?"
I forgot. I've seen this movie and I forgot that she was in it and was like,
Oh.
that's a real do you've got going on.
I'm excited to talk about her character in particular because what a character that was. But before we get into all of that, producer Brian, please give us some words.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hey, YouTube. We're on YouTube. Hi. Yeah, you can find us wherever you are on social media as well. At Talk Horror Pod on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Threads. All that fun stuff. Check us out there. Yeah, I'm excited. I've never seen this before. This is my first time watch through The House of the Devil. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Nikisha, your first time thoughts are, and Jamie, what your like multiple view thoughts are on this one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I forgot to say, obviously heavy spoilers for The House of the Devil, and maybe some Barbie spoilers if you want to throw that in with Greta as well. And Jamie, can you give us some trigger warnings, please?
Sure. This focuses on the horror sub oh my god, I can't talk words. The horror sub genre of satanic panic. Like as an overarching theme. So like if satanic themes, you're uncomfortable with that, There also like are slasher elements. There's some insides on the outsides. Lots of them. Some demons. Some spoilers for baby. Pentagrams. I don't know if there's like needs to be a spoiler for a lunar eclipse, but it goes in the realm of the satanic panic and kind of witchy stuff.
You afraid of moons? Don't watch this.
Don't get mooned.
Don't get mooned. Don't get mooned. You may be mooned if you watch this movie.
This also might be a weird trigger warning, but like there's a lot of eating in this film that like I clocked a lot of that like almost kind of made me uncomfortable. Like there's something really intense about the way that everyone's eating in this movie when they are eating. So if that is also like a trigger for you, again, that's just like a heads up. But Satan, lunar eclipse, stabby
Witchery.
stabs, witchery, putting babies in things.
All that. Don't do it if you can't handle it. Fantastic. Well, let's get into it. Guys, have you watched anything new this week?
I don't think so. I haven't watched a lot, to be totally honest.
I was like, what happened? What happened this week?
Since the last time we were all together.
Well, we went away. We were away for a couple of days, so that was probably part of that.
That was spooky, though.
What
We're
was
in upstate
spooky?
New York.
We were upstate New York. There's a lot of spooky. So I did a TikTok where there are a lot of spooky movies that take place in upstate New York.
I believe that.
Yeah, the list is like my list includes like upstate Central and Hudson Valley, like that whole area. So you have like Hell House LLC takes place up there. The Night House takes place up there. Things Heard and Seen with Amanda Seyfried is Get Out is upstate. Sleepaway Camp takes place in upstate New York. Resurrection takes place in Albany. The Poughkeepsie Tapes in Poughkeepsie, New York. Sleepy Hollow, technically, even though that's more like Hudson Valley. Mother May I, the movie I just watched, takes place in and around Binghamton. A Quiet Place 1 and 2 is upstate as well.
I don't think I ever realized that A Quiet Place was New York.
Upstate New York, yeah.
Crazy.
What you're saying is I shouldn't want to move up there.
Yes.
I mean, right? Well, the housing market is what it is, but it's so nice up there.
I can deal with some ghosts. I can deal with some spookery. It's fine.
Maybe that'll bring the price down.
Yeah,
if there's something attached to it.
I will happily move in with a ghost.
Yes,
if there's any ghosts out there that are looking for a roommate, split that mortgage. I am in so hard.
Yeah, just get a whole bunch of salt and put it around all the things.
Yeah,
you know?
have your spaces, I have mine. I think that's a good arrangement.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I agree. We'll make this work. Hopefully we'll get some DMs about it.
some ghoulish DMs.
Some ghoulish DMs. Well, okay, I haven't watched anything spooky, but it is a coincidence. The reason why I really bring up Barbie, not just because of Greta, but it's because I saw it between the time that we recorded it. Okay. Yes. And we last recorded and now. So it's just really funny that I just watched Barbie and didn't know that Greta was in this at all until it popped up during the title card moments. So that was an interesting movie. But
did you like Barbie?
I did. I had mixed feelings about it because I had a lot of friends telling me how they felt about it. And I think that influenced how I was going to watch it because a lot of my friends saw it when it first came out. And there wasn't a lot that was revealed about what the story actually was. People just thought that it was going to be just a fun, Barbie movie with Ryan Gosling, whatever the case may be. And then people were like, oh, well, it talks about all of these different, very important issues. And so I was going in knowing that that was a thing. And so it kind of left me in the in-between because I wanted them to go a little bit further with the messaging. If they were, if that's what the movie is going to be about, like go full force in it. Or if you just wanted to be like a stupid, fun Barbie movie, just make it a stupid, fun Barbie movie, But I think it landed somewhere in the middle. And I just wanted it to go one way or the other. But other than that, I had a good time watching it. And Ryan Gosling is just such a genius actor in general. So he was absolutely hilarious the whole time. And of course, we love our star Barbie. Why can't I think of her name right now? It's in my brain. Margot Robbie. Thank you.
She's amazing in the movie. She like really carries. She doesn't get enough credit for how well she carries that movie out of. Everyone's talking about Ryan Gosling, but like she's amazing in that movie. Like actually amazing.
Well, like the different layers and the subtle nuances on how she plays Barbie is absolutely fantastic. In the sense of not just being like a dumb blonde. And I also love the fact that when she was talking about her feeling not pretty, and then the narrator comes in and is like,
yeah, he's like, the producers may have made a mistake by
casting Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from there in terms of what you're saying there. I personally I loved it. I think that for a blockbuster movie, I think that the fact that they could even go as far as they went into talking about those topics was impressive, because I did not like. If this was a Greta Gerwig indie movie, and this was all they discussed, I would be. This is me speaking, personally. I would have been more. I would have been less satisfied if this was an indie movie and only half-assed, talk through some of those. But because this was a blockbuster movie where you're really trying to speak to everybody as much as possible, I thought that they split the difference really well in it.
Yeah, that's a great point. It kind of
isn't fair. It sucks that we have to think about it that way. That's a whole nother problem. Right.
Yes, yeah. You have to think about what is going to actually sell and be profitable, and you have to just hide some of the messaging in as much as you can.
Yeah, not that this movie hit it.
I mean, yes, but
but yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, let's get into the House of the Devil. We need a plot summary. And so now that we have our designated plot summary person, producer Brian.
Yes,
you got this.
I know.
What's the plot?
Okay. Whoever's timing me, let me know. I'm just gathering my thoughts. I'm gathering my houses, my devil houses. Okay, I think I can do this. We watched it a couple days ago, but I think I can do this.
I believe in you.
Thank you. Let me know. I believe the children are our future.
That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
All right. So, producer Brian, you have 2 minutes on the clock to give us your best plot summary for House of the Devil.
Okay.
House of the Devil. House. That's what I think of every time. All right.
Oh, sure.
Are you ready?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Ready, steady, go.
Okay, so we meet a girl in college. She's a sophomore named Samantha. She's trying to move out of her dorm because her roommate's the worst. And this takes place, we're supposed to assume, in the 80s, or early 80s, late 70s. And she finds an awesome house, but she doesn't have any money. So she gets a flyer in town for babysitting, and she ends up taking the job. She gets the job because her friend, played by Greta Gerwig, thank you, hi Barbie, Greta Gerwig pulls down all of the other flyers, so she has to get the job because no one else. It turns out that there's a lunar eclipse, and the man who hired her is actually hiring her to take care of the mother-in-law and not just any kid. However, the mother-in-law is on her own. So she's basically in the house on her own. Greta Gerwig drops her off, and she tells her, I'm going to stay because they're paying me extra money. So she's making $300 for the one night to do nothing. So Greta Gerwig drives away. She has to pull over because she wants to light a cigarette or something like that. And then she runs into someone in the local graveyard who kills her point blank. He asks are you the babysitter? And then just shoots her in the head when she says no. Another third party. So then we're back in the house. The guy says, order the pizza. It's on the fridge. The mother's upstairs. He meets the wife. So that's all that is totally fine. Then she's kind of getting spooked by different things in the house. She's trying to call her friend on the phone. And then long story short, she orders the pizza. She eats the pizza and she gets drugged. She was also dancing in the house and broke a vase. As she was cleaning, she found pictures of the people who lived at the house beforehand and realized that it's not those people. She gets drugged. We find out that it's a cult, and on the lunar eclipse, they're essentially trying to impregnate her with the devil's child. child. She kills all of them except for the one like leader who's got this weird face, and that's the mom, the mother-in-law. Anyway, she escapes, but she's then brought to the hospital, and the nurse is one of the cult members, and we find out that she has been impregnated. The end.
Woohoo!
Well, she escapes by shooting herself in the head.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah,
oh my god.
she does.
Oh, duh. Oh my god. That's so yeah. So at the end, she's like, she decides to the guy who hired her is like, don't, you've already been like, this is already done. The decision has been made for you. So she makes a decision to kill herself. So instead of killing the guy, she puts a gun to her head and blows her own like brains out. But she survives it. And so she's in the hospital, like with the all the the head wrappings, and then we find out that she's still pregnant.
And that's the plot.
Whether the devil baby saved her or it was just
Right.
like an unfortunate set of circumstances, is something we can talk about.
Yeah. So much to unpack in this
baby.
movie. Let's the bebe.
Oh yeah,
Let's-
also the bebe.
The bebe. Where are bebe's chambers? Okay. So let's get into our first segment, which is likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So Jamie, do you want to start with your likes and gripes? Tell us your relationship with this movie when you first saw it, and give us all your likes and gripes, please.
Yeah, I can't actually remember when I saw it. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I might have watched it just like by myself, just because I like heard it was a good movie. And like I do really like Satanic Panic as a horror subgenre, so I'm assuming that's how I got into it. And I do like this movie. When we get into the 4 S's, it might not seem like I like this movie, but I want to confirm that I do like this movie, even if I find some of the behaviors and actions of people like not smart. But I think also when you take this movie for like the time period that it's taking place, like it makes sense. Like it's giving you 80s horror aesthetic, and that very much is like people aren't making good decisions in those movies.
Sure.
Can I just chime in on that, because
Yeah.
I had to go back and read some of the plot from the Wiki page, and so just because you had mentioned making wrong decisions, I just want to shout out a couple of sentences from the Wiki plot because it literally says like she is making bad decisions. One of the sentences is after she finds her friend Megan corpse in the kitchen, it says Samantha runs upstairs instead of out of the house. And then it also says Samantha shoots herself in the head, making the first and only rational choice of the movie.
Wait. That's something. So what Jamie said there is a like and a gripe for me too, because it's a gripe because like what the fuck are you doing? But it's a like because this movie is shot with all the equipment you would have shot like an 80s movie on.
Yep.
It looks like and feels like an 80s movie from like the ground up. So like that made it feel more genuine and authentic in a way.
Even the
but
opening
it drove
of like
me nuts.
based on true events.
Yeah, totally.
Right,
Like a Texas
exactly.
Chainsaw Massacre or something
Yes.
like that. Totally. And as we've said many times on this podcast, the 70s is my favorite decade for horror. I love it. This had very late 70s, early 80s vibes. Like that when early 80s movies like Friday the 13th or The Shining still felt like late 70s movies. Like that's like a real like enjoyment wheelhouse for me. So like that element of this movie really blew me away, to be totally honest.
Yeah. No, it's and I just want to confirm with Brian that it was shot on 16 millimeter film to get the aesthetic of like
Very
80s.
cool.
So it was great. Sorry, continue on.
No, I was looking at the Wiki to see like what other
Yes.
opinions came into the plot. One of them says, after erratically and wildly dancing all over the entire house with her eyes closed and, quote, accidentally breaking a vase.
Yeah, what do you mean accident? Yeah, it was an accident. It was clearly an accident.
But also, what is compelling her to dance all over this house with her eyes closed? And okay, here's a gripe. You order pizza, and then you're going to wear headphones in the house, and you can't hear when the pizza arrives? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
But I actually think that's not the gripe. The gripe is that you don't hold the pizza box when you're scared vertically.
Vertically. I literally was like, if she opens this pizza and it's not dismembered, I'm out.
Oh,
It's done.
I was looking for that. I was looking,
Done.
but it was dismembered, and that made me very happy. But I was just like, even if I was scared to death by something, my first instinct would be protect the pizza. like 100%.
Forget me.
It's food.
Protect the pizza.
Yeah, like she grabbed it like a library book, and I'd be like, "No, you saved the pizza. The pizza's the thing that's gonna comfort you." Anyway, that we may be going too deep into the weeds with that one, but I'm just saying.
We have strong opinions about pizza in this house.
Yes, we do.
Pizza's great. Yes.
But no, there are these fundamentally bad choices that these characters are making. Like the idea that, well, first of all, she makes this phone call on a payphone, and then then she hangs up, and then the phone rings. Like, what would compel you to answer a ringing payphone? Even if you just used it, that is not something. And I'm a millennial. Like I existed when payphones existed. There was no moment where I was ever going to answer a ringing payphone. Like that's not for me.
Also, her inability. Yeah, her inability to follow up on the questions that she asked, was really annoying. And also like she was like, "Well, how did you get this number?" And he's like, "Oh, never mind." And it's just like, no, I need to know these answers because my safety is at stake here. Like, what the hell are you doing? So, while again, that's a like and a gripe. It felt very 70s, 80s movies, but, this character presents as not only timid, but smarter than this character. So, the character presents as timid, so, I just don't see her, doing the things she did in the house. Anyway, I'm getting too much. Yeah, go for it.
I think that's a great way to get into, overall, I think my biggest gripe is the type of personality that we're getting is then pivots to something totally different when she's actually in the house. Like her conversation with her bestie Greta, Barbie, their interactions. Hi Barbie. Hi Ken. Their interactions about oh well maybe, I mean honestly also I think Greta's character is smarter, even smarter than our main character, because she's why would you agree to stay in this house when they lied to you about who you're actually babysitting? It's not.
And even before she was like, why are you even taking this job when he was flaking on you and everything seems
we're done here.
Right.
But no.
Also, just take her dad's money.
Yeah, I don't know why she was too proud for that.
And that's fine.
You
if
only
you're
have
too
a
proud.
weekend to get
but
the
that's
money
the thing.
together. The time frame is
totally
so short. Just get the help and then work to pay back. It's just it seems she's weirdly very prideful in that moment. And then
So for those of you who are just listening and didn't watch it, Greta Gerwig's character offered to give her the money to pay for the house. It seemed like she came from money, and that the father kind of liked giving them money and knew who Samantha was as a friend. So she offered her the money, and then as Jamie said, was too proud to take it. But she only had one weekend to pay the down payment on the house
she had
for the 300.
3 days.
Yeah, that's fine. If you can't, you could say, I will take it, but I will pay you back. That's fine. But, it's not like someone was coming to break her knees. I understand that the situation was dire. because her
That's really aggressive.
like they showed like a very 80s like my roommate's the worst like
Oh
situation.
my god, this roommate was so bad. Like, and I've had, man, could I tell stories about bad roommates? I have had many. I am the like queen of bad roommates. Brian can attest to this. He is not one of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
I do want to clarify, Brian is not one of the bad roommates. Brian's probably the best roommate I've had. My bestie being a close second. But like, man, I have had chronically bad roommates, and like, just, I don't even know. I couldn't tell in the beginning if she was locked out of her room or if she just didn't want to go in because her roommate was. Oh, I didn't give a trigger warning, but like there is like references to sex in this movie because she's trying to get back into her dorm room and her roommate's having sex with someone, and like she gets annoyed and she like leaves and walks around on campus. And then when she does go into her room, her roommate's like still asleep and wakes up at who knows what time she just said like evening or afternoon or something, and like didn't even remember who the guy was. Like she was asking questions, and then she was like, "Oh, by the way, like you got a phone call," and she's like, "Who was it?" And she's like, "I don't know, I wrote it." And she's like, "Where?" And she's like, "On your desk somewhere." Like she's acting incredulous that her roommate is asking where she puts. It's just like, it was so over the top. But then again, it's like, okay, she's like, a little particular, whatever, like seems very smart. But then she gets to the house and she's by herself, not by herself, she's babysitting in the house. And she literally starts going, this is really my gripe. She goes through every single door, every drawer. She goes into the office, in the desk. She's so fucking nosy. And I literally turned to Brian in this movie and I was like, have you ever babysat before? Have you ever done this? I've babysat before. I wasn't going through the owner's shit. Like, that's nuts. That's like shocking to me.
Yeah, there are houses I've been in like 20 plus times and have never seen certain rooms.
Yeah.
Because like that's not what I'm. I don't know. I just have a little bit more respect for other people's space, I guess.
Yeah,
well, it's their stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if part
I guess
of
it's not their stuff.
I mean, true. I wonder if part of it was like this was such an emergency situation that like she was never going to interact with these people again. Whereas like, if you're a cash-strapped young person and you're like, I'm going to do some babysitting gigs, like you want to build a good relationship with the people you're babysitting for so that you get more jobs, get more work from them. But maybe that was why. But like that just seemed so outside of like who she was already presenting as.
Totally.
And it made it really like, I feel like there could have been other things that she did in the house, or even there's also a part where it's like, I get that there's tension building in that, and this movie's only 95 minutes. It's not very long, but there is something about that part in the movie where she's going through every single room and drawer and all of this, where it kind of does feel lengthy, and I like didn't remember how long it takes before like things like the things start to ramp up, and then all of a sudden you get to the end, like between her anxiety of being in the house and trying to call Greta multiple times, but at that point Greta had been shot in the head, and so like she obviously wasn't answering her phone because she was dead, and so she has this anxiety. The main character has this anxiety about like, is my friend okay? And then like orders the pizza, and like that's kind of a distraction, but she like just keeps freaking out and having more anxiety. She like calls the police and then hangs up, and then they call her back. And she's like, sorry, it was a mistake. And she's talking to herself out loud, like, girl, calm down. Like, it's okay. But that just goes on for, like, quite a long period of time. And I kind of felt like, let's just get to the point. But then it's like, what else is there? Because this movie's still pretty short.
But also, like, if this is one of my gripes, and this fits in exactly what Jamie's saying. I don't think that you needed the, like, headphones in dance sequence and her breaking the thing and then going in the closet. If she's being nosy and going in every room, just have her find
go in
the
the closet.
picture.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that stuff kind of just. I get that it builds the tension, like Jamie said, like that thing falling, it breaking, her trying to clean it up quickly because she doesn't want to disturb the very private mother-in-law. Like I get all of that, and the cinematography should be shouted out by. Elliot Rocket, just a really great job. However, it just felt like too much was happening in a span of time where nothing was happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Like, there's something where it's like, this is going on for too long, but also, like, again, this isn't a very long movie, so, you know, why not just, like, get to the point? If they're already making her nosy, she can get this information in a different way. But
Right.
I also wonder, like, there is something that, again, speaks to that time aesthetic that we're getting that, you know, I am all in on, like, an early 80s dance montage. Like, it's, like,
Totally.
separately, like, yes, I love this, but, like, it doesn't quite make sense. So it's, like, there's this weird tension between these things that, like, I don't know if it makes sense in this movie, but I like the aesthetic that it's giving me, so like I'm still kind of enjoying it. But like if you separate that, it's like, why is this happening? This this doesn't need to be here. So yeah, I think I agree with you, Brian, that like it feels like a lot of combo likes and gripes, like kind of interwoven with each other, because it's like things that both benefit the movie but also work against it at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think that's why, like, I like the movie, but my scoring is, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little harsh, but, like, again, I do think that the choices that are happening, like her not escaping from the house, doesn't entirely make sense. Like, she has so many opportunities to leave and then doesn't. And it's like, what are you doing?
Right. Like, is money that important to you that if you are getting so
She
anxious?
already got some.
Oh, that's right. She could have literally just like got the money and left.
She got half of the money up front.
Yeah.
So like you already have $200. Like you don't need the other 200. You also got pizza money. Like just bail.
Just bail. Just get out of there. Don't run up the stairs. Run out of the house. Number one rule. Fantastic. Do you have any more likes and gripes, Jamie, or is that it?
Again, it might be a combo, but like I think that the homeowner, I think it's Mr. Ullman is his name. He is just like so obviously bad. Like not bad as in a bad actor, but like it's
like
just so
eerie,
clear that
odd.
he's
Yes.
It's so clear that like he is doing something insidious and nefarious and like you know, spooky dooky.
Sure.
Even the way that he's talking about the eclipse, like all of that. I also love that Greta Gerwig's like, I'm so tired of all these people talking about the eclipse, and then they walk in, he's like, oh, we're going to view the eclipse. And I was like,
Just
oh
her
my god,
eyes
she's
rolling.
like dying. Yeah, eyes rolling into the back of her head. But it's like, okay, obviously this guy is the bad guy. Maybe I wish that it was like a little bit less in your face. But I still think that like the spooky things that they do at the end like is again good 80s satanic panicky vibes,
Right.
and like I'm into that. But
like I get that was the point.
Yeah.
But maybe I just don't like those type of movies. You know, like you know what I mean?
That's fair. Speaking of, I'll piggyback off of some of the things, Jamie, because I agree with a lot of things that you've already said, so I'll try not to just repeat them. But going from what you guys just talked about, even I think what makes me enjoy this movie is all of the bad decisions, which we have all like agreed and said.
Totally,
And
I get
to
that.
your point, Brian, I feel like I love those kinds of movies. So even though I have this same like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But then that draws me in even more of like, yes,
Sure.
this is hilarious to me, and this is funny, and I'm invested. I will say that one of my gripes is probably something that has to do with me more so than the movie, so I'll go ahead and admit that up front. But I had to go back and read the plot summary, which is why I found all those crazy things.
Sure.
Because I was confused at why she was panicking so much after she saw the picture.
Me
and all that
too,
stuff.
Nikisha.
Okay, great.
Me
Great.
too.
Great.
I had
Okay.
to read the Wikipedia because
Wonderful.
So this is what I thought. Let me know
Yes.
if Jamie's like that's not true. You're that's not true.
No, I wasn't gaslighting you.
No.
I was like, I feel like maybe I had already done that, but at that point I already had the knowledge and knew what was happening. So maybe I did gaslight you.
Okay, so in the movie, so for our listeners, in the movie, she breaks the vase and she's cleaning it up. And she opens the door in front of her, like the clothing door, and like a closet, and she sees the furs hanging there. And the wife had previously mentioned earlier the furs were in the basement. She's like, "That's weird." And then she sees a garbage bag full of pictures, and she picks up one of the pictures, and she sees a man, a woman, and a boy. The creepy dude had previously mentioned that he had a son that was all grown up. And they had the car behind them of a red Volvo. And then, so this is what I thought, Nikisha. Mm-hmm. I thought that she found a picture of the man, the woman, and their son at a younger age, but they just did a very bad job of casting younger versions of them for the picture. For whatever reason, I didn't put it together that those three people, even though you had that shot of like her knocking on the door and like them revealing what was behind the door, the dead family with, even though that happened, for whatever reason, maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, maybe I just like wasn't on the same wavelength of the movie at the time. I did not put together that these people killed the people who lived in the house. And then they put all their photos away in the garbage bag. For whatever reason, that went completely over my head. And I don't think I'm in the wrong. I mean, I'm sorry. I think I'm in the wrong. I think that, like, I should have been better at, like, picking that up. But, like, that's why I was confused. Did you have the same confusion?
Yes. So, but I thought, and tell me if this is what you're also saying, that, so the Ullmans, right, are the people that hired her, Samantha, to babysit. Yes.
So creepy family. I thought because they mentioned they had a son that this picture was just an older picture of the Ullman family. That's what
because
I
they had a
thought.
son. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just thought they cast bad younger actors that didn't look like them at all in the photo.
Yes, because the photo doesn't. I mean, it's what, the 80s, right? And so the photo, it doesn't look like it would be something that's. I don't know. The photo.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. The photo looked like it was maybe from the past, but also could. So that was confusing. And then
they
Volvo
cut to
back
her.
and forth.
They cut to. Also, I thought it was very weird that the only time in this whole movie that they kind of cut back to the past was like them in the driveway talking about the Volvo in black and white, and then cutting to them like getting into the Volvo again. Like,
right.
And then I was confused. Like, if she saw them drive away in the Volvo, why would you go outside and look for the car? That felt like a fake plot point just to get her to see that like RV outside.
Yes. I agree.
That whole section of the movie felt very, like, honestly, 80s movie clunky. So, like,
yes.
I think it's perfect. Again, it's a like and a gripe, if that makes sense.
Right. But that really was like a plot, that's a heavy plot point, because after all this stuff happens, she's like hyperventilating, grabbing a knife, going into the bathroom and trying to like calm herself down. And I'm like, why? I don't understand what just happened for you to freak out in that manner.
And then I felt like I missed like a very heightened emotional part of the movie that I couldn't emotionally be invested in. And so Jamie had to explain it to me because she watches movies like a champion when I'm there just being like a jabroni sitting on the couch being like, I don't get it. And like, she's like, no, let me explain.
Yeah, because and truly it just goes back to the picture. It looked like a picture from way back. So like I thought it was just the family from way back because they set up the point that he had a son. So it made sense. Yeah. So I didn't think twice about it. That
honestly,
it would be in the present.
It should have been a daughter. It should have been something, in my personal opinion, it should have been that like didn't look like them at all.
Right.
I get why he would say son because I understand the plot point that he would say we have a son. One, because they actually have a son,
Right.
But two, that's the one who shot her in the head. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that should have been a daughter or two kids or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting to that. Just really
But-
bothered me. It makes
Okay,
me
thank you.
honestly. I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel
Validated, okay?
Validated in my confusion
Validated.
over that plot point for sure.
That was really the main thing that I was like, hold up. And then I went back and I was like, okay, now it makes sense. But all of that to say, it didn't take away from me enjoying the movie in general. I think that, just to speak on Ty West for a second, he's quickly becoming one of my favorite directors. And I want to see other things. I think there's a couple of films that I have not seen of his that I want to go back and see. But I think that he is a master in the history of filmography in the way that he presents his pieces, because the fact
Sure.
that this was made in 2009, but to have the aesthetic of the 80s with not only just the filming on the 16 millimeter and not even just the costumes or whatever, but literally the essence of everything that we've been talking about the tropes and the best friends and the babysitters and the satanic panic. Like, he's done his research, and I think that this movie really speaks volumes on him really understanding this particular genre of horror movies. So shout out to him. Really enjoy it. A couple of other things. Wow, that was a very gruesome death by Greta, and that came out of nowhere.
Oh, I loved that. Yeah, that was a big like for me. That's when I felt like the
Huge.
movie like really like turned up the
Took off.
gas. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also, now that I'm thinking about it, a gripe. It's like she was so smart to try to tell her friend Samantha, like, you don't need to be doing this. This is creepy. But then you're in the middle of nowhere and you're talking to a stranger. So where's the line as far as like, you
Right,
know what
like
I mean?
you pull over into a graveyard to light a cigarette. Like, just keep driving. Yeah.
Just-
nicotine
I
addicted.
didn't
Driving.
understand that. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why stop here? What are you doing?
Of all the things, like just keep going until you get home. Like, it's not that deep.
Also, how did he get the body from the car to the house, and like you don't see any blood like dripping anywhere except for where the body is?
And why bring it into the house in the first place? Like,
Right.
why not just leave the car
Doesn't ma-
out in the
right.
middle of nowhere? Like, it literally doesn't matter.
Unless they needed like bodies for other satanic rituals they were doing.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know,
don't
because they
know.
kept the bodies. I mean, they didn't dispose of the bodies of the actual family in the
Yeah.
room. They were still there, so maybe they needed
Yeah.
it for
Right,
something
but they
else.
killed
Who
them
knows?
in the house.
True, yeah. But
But
then
I
it's like,
don't
if
know.
you kill them in the house and you're bringing somebody else to the house, why get rid of the bodies? Why are the bodies still there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know the details of because there was also like a pentagram, or not a pentagram, a star in the middle. Like, they were doing some ritual there. Maybe they need to keep it there. I don't know the specifics of their
I
rituals.
think that's a pentagram.
Oh yes, that's true. That's a good point. Anyway, thank you.
Yes. I did love the
And this has
pulsa-
been Shapes with Brian and Jamie.
Yes. So all that aside, one of the other things I liked was the pulsing shots of when after she ate the laced pizza and passed out, and then it was like pulsing shots of the eclipse, and then pulsing shots of like a candle, and then like pulsing shots of her, and then it's just like bam, this is where she's at right now, like tied up and all the things. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed the ending credits of it, just the still shots. I mean, very like 80s, and having all the credits come up on her still shot. And like we mentioned before, I don't see how she survived being shot in the head, but it probably was just because of baby Satan in her belly.
Baby
yeah.
Satan.
But other than that, enjoyed it a lot. It was a really fun time. As a first time watcher and not knowing anything about it, I had a really good time overall, just for the nostalgia purposes. So, Brian,
We already said all of my gripes. I totally agree with everybody on all of those. Something I will say about this movie is I like this movie too, despite how much we're like, dragging it a little bit. However, I think that the achievement of this movie is more interesting to me than the movie itself. I think like the ability to capture that 70s, 80s feeling, the way they filmed it, the fact that we're talking about these likes and gripes because that is like an essential part of those types of movies, is way more interesting and impressive to me than the movie itself in terms of like the plot and what happens and all of that. I think the acting is very good in general. I think she justifies her bad decisions pretty well, just as an actress in general. If I had seen this movie in 2009, I would feel the same exact way that I feel about Ty West right now. I can't wait for his next movie. And Nikisha, you talked a little bit about this, but like I feel like this is like seeing like the first Flanagan movie and being like, oh, this guy's got something.
Yeah.
You know, like and then I've never seen
This
The
guy's
Sacrament.
got it.
This guy's got something. I've never seen The Sacrament. I've never seen The Innkeepers. There's a lot of Ty West movies that I really do want to see now. But if I had seen this in 2009, my butt would have been in a seat for every single one of his new releases, the way that I feel right now. And I think that's like, what an achievement on something like this.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly list some of my likes so we can get into the other segments. I thought the opening credits were like perfect 70s, 80s credit, like truly immaculate. I loved the fact that they mess with your expectations. They subvert them where you think that the house is going to be the one she's renting versus the one she has to like babysit at. Because also Dee Wallace, who's the real estate agent, who's like a famous like, you know, actress from horror movies and stuff like that. You know, the mom in E.T., all of that stuff. Like, you think that like something nefarious is going on there or whatnot, but like no, that's just the inciting action, and I was obsessed with that just like bit of screenplay trickery. Jamie mentioned it. Greta Gerwig like eats in every single scene she's in. I think that's wonderful. Something I really liked about this movie as well is that the camera holds on spaces when they leave or when they're entering. The pizza place, they hold on the like statue of the guy making the pizza. You have the doorknob with the sock on it. It's like focused on that, and then she comes into frame. When she's getting her stuff together in the house and she's coming in and out of that like room and the door frame, I thought all of that is just really well done. It builds to this like weird tension of just like going to do things, and I appreciated that. I thought one of the best edits in this movie is when she cuts to her asking for $400. She asks for $400 from the guy, and then it cuts to her and Megan leaving. So you think that like, oh, you know, they decided not to do it. How are they going to get back in the house? But it's actually Samantha trying to convince Megan for her to let her stay and do that. I thought that was an excellent like bit of filmmaking there. The dialogue in this movie feels very real, very grounded. It doesn't feel like, you know, talking 80s or talking 70s or like talking horror. It's like, fair. But it feels like two people in that time frame, like just talking to each other and being friends. And I thought that really pulled me in quite a lot. The point blank headshot that Megan got after a slow burn just really got me in terms of like amping things up. Like, oh, here we go. And even when it slows down again after that, when she's looking through the house, like you now have that feeling in your gut that is very impactful. The casting is perfectly creepy yet totally normal. Like I thought that they cast they really creepy people that are trying to be normal, and I like appreciated that, if that makes sense. The sink and the water dripping with the sound of the phone rotary was like when she was calling and the phone rotary, but you have the dripping and they sync up at one point, was like really, really great tension building.
Can you explain what rotary phones are to our
Sure.
younger listeners?
Back in the
To our
day,
younger listeners.
when you had phones, you had to like, it was like a little dial where you had to like put your finger in the 1 and then spin the dial, let it go. Then put your finger in the 2 and spin it around and do that way. Also, the area code was 516, which is Long Island. I thought that was interesting. But also Ty West is from Delaware, which I didn't know. But the 516 may have been a shout out to the Amityville house, which I think is on Long Island.
Yeah.
Again, another
I've driven
based on a
past
true
it.
story. Oh, that's cool.
Creepy.
When she reaches for the light switch, I don't know if you noticed this, but at one point in the movie, she reaches for a light switch and it's not there.
Yes.
I thought that was a super cool detail of like being in a house that you don't know. And I thought it was just like a detail that kind of added to like her being uncomfortable in this house. I thought that was super cool. Also, an $8 medium pizza with toppings. Sign me up for the late 70s, early 80s.
Or a $300 for that whole house for a month to
Oh,
rent?
I know, right? Yeah, totally.
Take me back.
I know. I loved all of the panning out from the windows, so you see her in the house to give you the feeling that, you know, someone's watching her. And I like that shot where she turns on the TV and the camera follows her to sitting down on the couch, like in the two different windows. I really like that a lot. And then the biggest scare that I got from this was when she was slowly going up the stairs with the knife, and then the doorbell rings for the pizza. I thought that was really good. And then some quotes I have from the movie: "Sue me for being helpful,"
Yes.
and "Ooh, scary." Yeah. Oh, so here's some questions I have for the group, and maybe we answered them. I'm going to read them here. Megan was only killed because she stopped. Would they have killed her later because she was going to pick her up, or because she drove her? I'm just trying to think, like, did Megan do herself in because she stopped, or was she always going to be killed because she was either going to A, pick her up, or B, I don't know. That's just a question there that I have for the group. And then we already talked about my other one. Why would she even check the driveway? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Why?
Like, they took the car away.
Right. I literally thought that the whole setup was going to be Greta leaving, all the shit going down in the house, and then Greta coming back and either being able to save her or she was going to die. So I think that knowing that the head person knew that Greta dropped her off and was going to pick her back up eventually, I think they were probably just set up to, like, kill her regardless.
Sure. Okay.
That's my thought.
Yeah, and those. I really was. I was very into this movie a lot. I mean, it felt like a million other movies we've seen, and we'll talk about in suggestions. That's why I say that, like, the movie didn't impress me per se, but the filmmaking impressed me a great deal.
To be able to submerge yourself into that decade without it feeling any kind of forced, and that was one thing that I was going to mention too, because there are a lot of movies where, especially very old period movies that are maybe were filmed in the 90s, but like you can tell that it was filmed in the 90s even though it's set in like the 1800s or the 1700s, because they have like the thin eyebrows, right?
Yes.
And you're like, that's 90s.
Even the soundtrack.
And,
the soundtrack, the score gives it away. Like this, like this synth, like very 90s synth in a movie that like, or 80s synth, but it's like, but this movie, like everything felt like it was made in 1979, 1981.
Yes. Yeah. Especially the scoring. There was some strings or some things that were happening towards the end when like shit was going down, and it was like, oh, this is very much in the realm of 80s, and it doesn't feel overproduced to where it would seem like it would be something from the 2000s. But yeah, a true testament to him for just really submersing you in the decade. So grand. Shall we move on to brains? Tasty. I feel like we've talked so much though about like human behavior, because wow, these decisions were absolutely awful. This is gonna feel like a Kevin's Corner, if you know, you know, of like how the roundabout way of me asking this question to Jamie right now. But the movie ends, and then I'm thinking in my brain, Satanic Panic. How did that even start? We've talked so much about it, but I didn't know the origins, right? Yeah. And so a quick deep dive.
We talked about it on the Stranger Things episode for the most recent season, because they were playing on the Satanic Panic stuff too, I think, right?
Right. But they're, according to Wikipedia, which was my only deep dive into Satanic Panic, is that it all stemmed from this book that was written that gave a lot of philosophies. It was a husband who wrote the book about his wife's experiences, about repressed memories, and it brought up that she might have been abused by a religious like cult, and that was published out into the world. And then that's when people were kind of gathering other information about it, and so then that led me to the term recovered memory therapy, because that's what they talk about in the book. And it claims that traumatic memories can be buried in the subconscious, and the only way to access them is through practices of hypnosis or guided imagery, psychoanalysis, past life regressions, and journaling. So this has since been something that actual psychologists don't agree with, or they are not about, recovered memory therapy. So I wanted to ask Jamie what your thoughts on recovered memory therapy are, and do you believe that traumatic memories can be buried into one's subconscious?
So I didn't know what this was.
Yeah. See, because it's not a valid,
wait, what's it called again?
Thing. Recovered memory therapy.
Interesting. In college, I took a creative writing class, and I think we read a segment of this person's book and we discussed it.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
That's for what purpose?
I'm recovering my memory.
Oh my god.
On it.
God.
But that was a joke. The first part was real.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But this is not this is not a thing that is practiced in actual medical field.
Recovered memory.
So I'm going to
recovered
read what
memory
the Wikipedia
therapy
entry says about it. So recovered memory therapy is a catch-all term for a controversial and scientifically discredited form of psychotherapy that critics say utilizes one or more unproven therapeutic techniques, such as psychoanalysis, hypnosis, journaling, past life regression, which I don't know what that is, hypnosis to uncover past memories of past lives or incarnations, guided imagery, and the use of sodium amytal interviews to purportedly help patients recall previously forgotten memories. They claim, contrary to evidence, that traumatic memories can be buried in the subconscious and therefore affect current behavior, and that these memories can be recovered through the use of these techniques, and it is not recommended by mainstream ethical and professional mental health associations.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know anything about this. What I don't like about what it also says of when it was coined is that it was coined by this association called the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which advocates on behalf of individuals who claim to have been falsely accused of perpetrating child sexual abuse.
What?
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, see, the more digging you do, the more you... It's like, oh, this makes sense of why it's not recommended by mainstream ethical folks.
Right.
So... yeah, I don't know too much about this, but in terms of trauma and memory, I'm not going to speak to the subconscious and that stuff, but trauma does, and we've talked about trauma and the impact on the brain and memory before on this podcast. Trauma does weird stuff to our brains. When we're experiencing a traumatic event, the way that it's the connections that are happening in our brains, it is doing different things. So as an example, let's say that you experience something traumatic that you want to report to the police. Sometimes that experience can be particularly challenging, and there's supposed to be certain interviewing techniques that police and ADAs who are potentially going to prosecute a case are supposed to use, because it's with this understanding that memory from trauma doesn't come necessarily in chronological order. So that's one example of the ways that our brains are impacted by experiencing trauma. We might not be able to recall certain pieces of that traumatic event in the order in which it happened, and we might be pulling from all kinds of different things based on how it has made those connections in our brain. And so like, sometimes some folks I've worked with have said processes where like they're being asked questions in a certain order of like what transpired, but they're not able to give that information in that way because like it's just not registered in that particular way. So like that can be really challenging. And then a lot of times like they're asked to kind of revisit it over and over again. And like that also can be really re-traumatizing. So like it does do really weird things to our memories and our ability to recall information and like all of that. So like that's like there is research and science into that, but I can't speak to like any of this. And quite frankly, I'm definitely concerned about like who is coining it and where that came from. So yeah.
And it's, it's interesting because we have talked about hypnotherapy in, other movies and things.
The Netflix classic Hypnotic,
yes. And it's so interesting that these things still come about, but we never really talked about like how much it is discredited or its association with recovered memory therapy, in that sense. So it's just,
I think a lot of things are presented as fictional when you're watching a movie. And so like, but like if you're not knowledgeable about that particular topic or like area, then you might just take it and run with it. And you're like, holy shit, is that really what like hypnotherapists are like planting wild things in my brain and like making me do things that I don't remember doing? And it's like, this is what grinds my gears about movies that like discuss mental health and human behavior in those particular ways, because like there are people that like might not otherwise realize that like this is false and like it's pretend, and so they're like taking it and like internalizing it, and then like that's adding to the stigma. So like those are the things that make me mad. And I wish there was more. I guess like it kind of like what do you do about that? I don't really know what the answer is. I think like I think you have to be really careful about presenting things that are truly fiction. Because I feel like you either, like, to not perpetuate harm, you either have to go, like, all in on the silly side, where it's like people know that this is, like, definitely not grounded in reality and, like, it's goofy silly and, like, this isn't real. Or you go the opposite end and you're like, we're actually going to take an informed approach and like explain things to the audience in a way so they can understand it because it's based in something that's real. Like, I feel like anytime you get somewhere in the middle, that's when at least that's when I have problems with those presentations. And I get that that's not always possible, maybe, but like, then I'm going to complain about it. So.
Right. Then you're going to have the actual professionals being like, I call bullshit. This is not correct.
I don't like this.
I don't like it.
But it also
Fantastic.
It also just goes to show you, like, I mean, it's media. Like, the power of that book had over so many people. The power the media has, and the things that we're experiencing now today, where like with like quote fake news and like getting your news from different sources, like. It's not new. Like it's not new at all, and I think this is
the same. It's just the same themes that we see time and time again, just presented in like slightly different ways. But like like these core ideas like are things that we've already been dealing with.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. Okay, so my next question is not as crazy.
I thought it was a good question. I'm glad you did that research.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see the things that people will just make up and put out there and say, yep, this works, here it is, and then people just eat it up. Ugh, crazy. But my next question is, what do you think is the reason why so many people are susceptible to cults? Because they still exist, maybe not in the heightened fictionalized versions that we see in movies, but they are out there and people are a part of them.
Shout out to all our satanic cults out there.
Shout out. Listen, people might hate me for this, but some churches are cults, so there you go.
to all the Bagul lovers and I'm trying to think of who's the one from the VHS that the witches are saying her name at the end?
It begins with M, right?
Yeah.
Maud, Mabel.
Mabel, yes.
Mabel. Yeah, we love Mabel.
Well,
Mabel.
But to go one step further, Nikisha,
Yes.
Religion is just socially acceptable cults.
Thank you. Hopefully that's
Like-
not a hot take, but I agree fully.
But like organized religion, faith is
Yes.
a different. To me, faith and religion are two very separate things.
They are. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But organized religions, some of those people, it's questionable the choices that they make and how they have no respect for other human lives. And, that's a whole nother conversation. But, Brian, that's the exact truncated version of what I was trying to say. Organized religions, cults. So sorry, go ahead, Jamie, and answer.
Okay. We're not jumping down any rabbit hole here.
We've been going to 80 million. It's Alice in
I
Wonderland
know.
here. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I think that like every so often I feel like cults get a lot of attention in the media because of like something that's happening, usually something criminally justice related, and like then everybody is very curious about it. And I think a lot of people are curious about like how does this happen? How do people get involved? And I think also as a side note, like I'm not somebody who works directly with folks who have been in cults. However, I do know that that is a niche in therapy. There are therapists that work with folks who have left cults and like help them cope with that transition. That's
wonderful.
Something that is real and like very needed because like the things that like I can only imagine like what state you might be in after you leave
Delaware.
and like the type of the type of support that you need. So I'm glad that there are folks out there who like are specially trained to work with that population. I think that some of the things and I say some of this where it's like, oh shit, I relate to this. Like, does that mean I'm susceptible to a cult? Like, take this with a grain of salt. I think that there's obviously like more context, but I think that the ways that folks are buying into this is like there's some element of like growth that they want to experience, self-betterment, like some enlightenment, something like that, where it's like the mission is like you're going to improve yourself, you're going to achieve this like higher degree of something, which again that's why I prefaced it with like I might relate to this because objectively who doesn't want to like experience growth or like a deeper connection with a higher degree of connection with yourself. So I think that's one piece. I think also like it's not just about you, but like cult implies that there's other people involved, so like the draw to the sense of like community and like it's this like it's very relationship focused. Again, you might be saying like, yeah, I want to be a part of a community, like that doesn't mean that I want to join a cult. Or maybe you're like, does that mean I want to join a cult? But again, these are things that I think are like, any basic human desire or need is also kind of aligned with like what I think a cult might be targeting. But the other thing is like there is this element of vulnerability, and that's a bigger part that I think, and I think that's a lot harder to describe because like I think that might look differently for different people, and I don't even know if I can like even speak more specifically on that, but like there's something where like there's a willingness to suspend any disbelief on what you're being promised and like what's being presented to you, and I do think that comes from this state of like vulnerability, maybe some self-doubt in there combined, like feeling this need to be a part of this thing. Like the draw is just very high, and I don't think that's not to say that like people who are more guarded are not likely to join cults. I'm sure that's not true at all. but I do think that there is like some degree of vulnerability that's tapped into when it's being presented like in combination with those other things. I think in particular, if like you are more isolated or like have limited support system, like that plays into it too. Because again, like the connection is a big draw in helping you like with, again, whatever the mission is, whatever that growth is. But like that, I think is also a big part. I'm sure there's other things too, but those are some of the things that come to mind.
And if I could, if our listeners are more interested in like how does one become involved in a cult, like on purpose or by accident, season 1 of the HBO documentary The Vow about the Nexium cult is actually a very intricate, detailed, and fascinating exploration of how somebody becomes involved in a cult with maybe not even knowing it. That's one of the best. That's one of the best explanations, visual, like, and both like hearing from people inside of it without like, and being able to look at it as objectively as possible, having removed themselves from it. That's one of the things of course I love the mystery of it, the like revealing of stuff and whatnot. It's a very good narrative in general, but the what really kept me engaged was like, how does somebody get that deep into something? You don't make those conscious decisions in some ways. I thought it was fascinating. So that's another interesting way to go a little deeper in a more personal level than what in addition to the information Jamie just provided us.
Yeah,
that's
like,
literally.
And that's just. Oh no, I was just gonna say like that's just. We're talking about like what might make somebody more vulnerable or more susceptible to joining a cult. Like that's not even speaking to what are the things that like the cult might be doing to manipulate you into like you might not necessarily struggle with those things. That's thinking about it more of like that might increase your risk of potentially like joining a cult, but like there are still things that a cult is actively doing to manipulate you into like joining, like, you know, just gaslighting, like that intense affection up front that like is really like love bombing. Like we think about love bombing in like, you know, intimate partner violence and abusive relationships, but like this is also kind of an abusive relationship. So like if you think about it, it's all about power and control. So if that's what the goal is, then there's a lot of overlap between what you might see in intimate partner violence, but like just on a bigger scale in like a group form. Yeah.
And also we can't forget that someone who was highly susceptible to cults, but he had a family around him to help him through all of this, friends and family, is Sean Hunter in that episode of Boy Meets World.
That you are correct. But he had a strong community, and that's what Jamie was saying. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm. He was able to have like, you know, Corey and the whole Matthews family help to pull him out of that. Because I think that's the episode when Mr. Turner was in a car in the motorcycle accident, and he had that breakdown in the hospital. But when I think of cults, that's what I think of. That's why I brought it up.
I love Boy Meets World so much. It's fantastic. Great. Yes. And ditto to the Nexium documentary because it's absolutely wonderful. Okay. My last question is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you think there's like a specific mental illness or a mental disorder, that's attached to people who seem to not have any kind of regard for human life? And I want to throw out my guess of, wow, I can't think of, I'm thinking of Stu or Billy and not the actual terms. Because I just think of Billy. So yes, can you let us know what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, I think that the one that probably most likely fits is what you're alluding to, which is like in the DSM, it doesn't say Stu or Billy, but it might say antisocial personality disorder. So that is a personality disorder where, like, I think folks often view that as like the psychopath sociopath, which is usually what we're talking about when we talk about Billy or Stu. But it's like the lack of remorse for like a general disregard for other people.
General disregard.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a really good one.
That
Yes.
That's
And you
it.
said what?
Antisocial personality disorder.
Okay. And that is our Billy of it all, the psychopath of it all. Okay.
Tend to lie and act impulsively, little regard for safety or anything for others.
Yeah. Which is just a scary thing. Also to think about, like, are you born into that? Which we talked about with the Scream movies. You know, are you born into that, or is that something that your atmosphere, environment leads you to down that particular path?
And that's something that Dexter, I mean, whether you think it would deal well or not well, that's what Dexter kind of tries to break down a little bit too, at least in the first couple of seasons.
I've never watched that. Is it worth watching the first couple?
The first 4 seasons are spectacular television. I've heard that if you binge the entire series, it's way better than if you watched it episode to episode, season to season.
Okay.
I watched it episode to episode, season to season, and after season 4, it really like starkly went downhill for me. However, seasons 1 through 4 are some of the best television I was like watching at the time. So I would say absolutely watch seasons 1 through 4, and if you're really enjoying yourself, keep going, but know that like it may not get better than season 4. Season 4 is one of the better seasons of television I've ever watched.
Got it. I'll put it on my list. I'm almost done with my season 1 through 7 Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We haven't talked about them forever. Wait, where are you on it right now?
Season 6, episode 5 or 6. They're in the new town that's run by the older woman, and they're all blocked off, and they
The Whisperers? The older woman?
Oh, with the W on their heads, the I can't.
I don't even
think of the name of the
remember this.
Okay, well, it's this whole town, and I forgot what the name of the town was, but it's run by this woman, this older woman, and her husband. But they were there the whole time the world shut down, so they never really had to go outside and like fight for themselves. And so then Rick and the gang eventually like find this community and get brought into the community. But then of course like all the stuff happens, and Rick and his gang are trying to protect them because they don't know how to protect themselves because they hadn't had to be outside in the outside world. Yeah, season 6. It's
I still need to watch the final season, but I'm not. I've decided that like once I finish the final season, that's it for me. I'm not watching any of the new spin-off shows. I will watch. I will watch they're doing a movie like that continues some of the TV show, but like I'm not watching any of the TV show spin-offs. Like I'm just gonna watch. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, it's a lot. It's after a while, it's like, what other things can you do?
It just becomes repetitive. It's like just stay in one place, bruh.
Just stay in one place. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But it's still very, very good. And there's still a lot of good people in there. Like Daryl's my guy. I'm super glad that he's still alive. I feel like he's alive through the whole thing. But yeah, it's crazy. It's now just thinking like, who's the main character that's gonna die? That's gonna like be devastating, you know, for the whole whole season. Sure. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's The Walking Dead parlor talk.
Come sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
Let's move on to Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatin, yeah?
Rotten Tomatin.
Great.
Rotten Tomatin.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
What do you think this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes?
56.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say it's like 72.
This has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoopsie.
Great.
Though its underlying themes are familiar, The House of the Devil effectively sheds the loud and gory cliches of contemporary horror to deliver a tense, slowly building throwback to the fright flicks of decades past. I think that's a solid description of this movie.
I'll take it.
Oh, but the audience score is down by 63. Is 63%.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Agreed. Fantastic. Okay, like, I guess let's do the 4 S's. I guess we always do them now.
Do it.
Okay.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
Okay, so we have skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We're going to rank them all 1 through 10. Skulls being how well it handles mental health and human behavior. Scares, how scary was it? And shakes, how much is this going to stay with you? And then we'll do our suggestions after that. So, Jamie, let's start with your skulls, scares, and shakes.
All right. So I mentioned that I might be a wee bit harsh. For skulls, I gave this a 3. Because I feel like there's a lot of bad decision making that just like doesn't really make any sense, even not just in reality but also in like the character that like we were promised in the beginning, and then it just pivots into like, who is this person, why are you so many doors that you're opening? I would never do that.
Too many doors.
Too many doors. For scares, I gave this a 2. I don't think that like there really aren't that many jump scares. I think that the scenes that are supposed to build tension kind of last a little too long, and like the tension kind of dips, at least for me. Again, I've seen this movie before a few times, so maybe that's just based on like I don't really remember how spooked I was the first time I watched it, so it's the effect I feel like has been lessened.
What was that number again?
A 2.
Okay.
A dose for your Duolingo. And for shakes, I gave this a 4. Did the Duolingo hit harder right now, Nikisha? Because you just saw Barbie and there is that Duolingo joke in there.
My gosh.
That was
Absolutely.
the joke. That was the joke that Jamie and I laughed hardest at because I do Duolingo. And she like hears me in the bathroom in the morning being like no habla español.
I hear the click click.
No hablo.
You did it. You
Yeah.
got it right.
Yeah, that sound effect, everything. It was perfect. It was perfect.
So good.
Obsessed.
For shakes, I am giving this a 4, because even though I like generally remembered what happened in this film, I actually forgot that she shoots herself in the head at the end. And I almost just remarked like, oh, I totally didn't remember the ending of this at all. So it really didn't implant itself into my brain. But that made me like it again, like more.
Sure.
Because I was like, oh, that's like a good ending. I like that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I got.
Nikisha?
Okay, so Skulls, I'm going to give this a 2. And I make up for it in the shakes, but of course we're just talking about how the action of the movie talks about skulls and talks about human behavior, skulls. And so a 2 for me because everybody's making awful decisions, as Wikipedia states. Scares, I'm also going to give it a 2 because it wasn't scary to me. I agree with Brian that I jumped at the pizza coming. That was good. Tension building.
Right.
But I really like this movie.
When the scariest part of your movie is you hold the pizza box vertically, like, you know, we got some things to talk about.
We got some issues. But I really enjoy this movie, so I'm going to give this a 7 because it will stay with me.
We should also shout out the makeup design person for the weird face of the mother-in-law. Was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Nikisha, did you watch Cobweb?
Yeah, I haven't yet. No.
Okay. I'm looking forward to you watching that.
Yes.
Once you do, I'd like to dedicate like the opening of an episode to like just talking through Cobweb a little bit.
Fantastic.
But Okay, I also agree with Jamie. Skulls is a 3 for me. I agree with the two of you that Scares is a 2. I give this a 6 for Shakes because I previously mentioned I would definitely add this to like a watch list for someone if this is like what they dug.
Yes.
I find actually that I enjoy throwback movies more than I enjoy the movies that were made during the 80s and that time period.
That's fair.
Like I enjoy Final Girls more than I enjoy like a lot of slashers from the 80s. Like stuff like that. But I know that they're very different, and one is like trying to be something like that. But like this didn't feel like it was trying. This just was, and I think that's really impressive.
Just like the movie X. Sorry if I took somebody's suggestion, but I think that's also it's also Ty West, but a great example of what you said, Brian.
Agreed. Yes.
Like in the genre, but better than that.
Yeah, and I would argue that still X feels like it was made now, but as an homage. This actually feels like it was made then, which is like, and I think I opened my likes and gripes with this. Like that's the most impressive thing to me, and that's why it gets a 6. Nikisha, do you want to start with suggestions?
Yeah. When I saw this, I was like, I am getting deja vu flashbacks of somebody running around in a house in the 70s, and so Black Christmas 1974 OG is my suggestion.
This is a good one.
That's a great one. Jamie?
Satanic Panic. I went with Starry Eyes.
Yeah. Oh.
'Cause, you know, what would you do to have your dreams come true? But I also wanted to suggest Suspiria for weird and that being said, I have not seen the original, so I can only really speak to the remake. But weird culty bad vibes happening. That's all I will say.
I'd say the OG is a good also compliment to it. I haven't seen the remake. I've just seen the OG.
I really
definitely in the...
want to watch. Maybe we should do the remake because I really want to rewatch it with a very different lens. Because I was very confused the first time, but I've had a lot of time to sit on it, and I want to give it another go.
We could even do both of them if we wanted to.
Oh.
Let's do it.
But there's only one movie that I would suggest with this one, and it's Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
Satanic
Panic.
Yeah, everything, the cult aspect, the gaslighting, the all of that. Some other ones I had here were I guess just Halloween. And Night of the Demons if you want a very 80s movie. But Rosemary's Baby is the one.
For sure. All right. Well, that wraps up our episode of The House of the Devil. You can follow us on all the social medias, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Twitter, at Talk Horror Pod, P-O-D. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
Yeah, you can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. So, for instance, if you're really into Spotify, we're on Spotify. Yes. Maybe you get everything from Apple Podcasts. We are there. We're also on YouTube, in the podcast section, so you can find us there as well. But wherever you're listening to us, rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then next week starts our run of what is it? Latin Heritage Month.
Hispanic Latin Heritage. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
My brain short circuited in that.
So we'll be doing. We're going to be doing the Orphanage, Wreck, and Pan's Labyrinth. So we'll do a little J.A. Bayona. We'll do some Guillermo del Toro. And one of the best found footage movies ever, Wreck. So I'm super excited for that, just from a high level standpoint. And then we're gonna get into October, and we've got some fun stuff in October for y'all. So make sure that you're subscribed.
Yes, good old spooky season. So excited for it.
Spooky.
And also, guys, we really do enjoy when you review us and write about us. It's very exciting. So thank you to those who have reviewed us. And yes, if you are liking what you're hearing, let us know, guys. We all need a little validation now and then. So
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Please. Also, Brian, do you want to end us with one of your quotey quotes?
Oh yeah, of course. Let me bring up my quote machine.
Bring back my quotes.
Sue me for being helpful.
Just sue me. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
But shout out before just review wise.
Yes.
Shout out to Yalaki D. I don't really know how to pronounce that. Great review. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Air horns just for you.
Oh, I'll put those
That's
in
right.
then, yeah.
Everybody who gives us a 5-star review gets personalized air horns.
We
That's
like
fantastic.
reading them. Like, well,
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. We like reading them too. Like, yes, it helps us, but like, I like reading them. What do you want from me? It's nice. We put a lot of hard work into this, and it's very nice to know that you're listening and you're enjoying. So if you do listen, The Orphanage, Wreck, and Pan's Labyrinth, that's your homework.
Yes. Exciting times. Yeah, we should give them homework. This is what we're doing next, y'all. So prepare the way. Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys. We appreciate ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.